Tonight on KVR News, information on the mass shooting in Vegas on Sunday night.
A UT student is attacked while jogging in Harris Park.
And see how UT researchers are helping the future of anxiety disorders.
You're watching KVR News, your leader for live, local UT coverage.
Broadcasting live from the Texas Student Television Studios at the University of Texas. You're watching KVR News at 9, Austin's leader for live, local UT coverage. Your news starts right now.
Good evening and welcome back to KVR News. I'm Walton Gray Martin.
And I'm Rolando Hernandez. Thank you for joining us.
The death toll rises to 59 people and more than 500 people have been injured after a gunman opened fire at an outdoor concert in Las Vegas last night. The gunman has since been identified as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. Officers found Paddock dead in his room after the shooting, along with at least 17 different firearms. The Islamic State has claimed Paddock as one of its soldiers but has not provided any evidence for their statement. President Donald Trump called the shooting an act of pure evil and plans to visit those affected this Wednesday.
The Austin City Limits Festival is now tightening their security measures in response to the Las Vegas shooting. The festival, which starts this weekend, is increasing law enforcement presence, implementing pat-downs, and thoroughly checking bags. They posted to their Facebook today that they will also implement, quote, elements that are seen and unseen.
Our thoughts are certainly with the victims and families of the horrific shooting in Las Vegas.
A string of assaults have occurred around the 40 acres this past week. A perpetrator described as a black male with a short afro, white earbuds, and black pants exposed himself to UT staff at the administration's office on Thursday. The suspect is still unknown. Last Wednesday morning, a UT jogger in Harris Park got punched in the back of the head, sending the student to the hospital. The suspect is believed to be a homeless man and was described as a black male in his 30s. Officials are asking anyone with information on these suspects to call 911.
Also on the 40 acres, the latest addition to the Cockrell School of Engineering opened its doors last Thursday. A UT press release said that the new addition was designed to foster collaboration and community building among students, faculty, and researchers. Construction began back in 2015, with the Cockrell School raising almost $75 million from the support of almost 300 Texas engineers. The center includes research labs and is equipped with 3D printers.
If you or someone you know suffers from anxiety, the University of Texas has some good news for you. The university research labs are developing a type of laser therapy that would alleviate anxiety symptoms. The treatment is called cranial infrared stimulation. With infrared lasers targeting areas of the brain that could improve oxygen, past research shows that the technique may improve the effectiveness of anxiety treatments and act as an antidepressant as well. With midterms causing stress levels to peak at an all-time high for the following weeks, this may be a potential solution to some of our fellow Longhorns.
A new device developed by students from the 40 acres could change how cancer is detected. Last night, UT President Greg Finvez tweeted about the new technology, co-developed by researchers at the University of Texas at Austin and Baylor College of Medicine. The tool is called Mass Spec Pen, a pen-sized mass device which can be used to test tissue for cancer right in the operation room. After Mass Spec Pen conducts the analysis, the surgeon will know in seconds whether or not the tissue needs to be removed. Normally, in order for tissue to be tested, it must be taken out of a patient, which can lead to healthy tissue being removed as well. With Mass Spec Pen, surgeons will be able to test tissue without cutting any out, allowing for a much more precise operation to take place. Rules are changing for one Austin church that will no longer hold weddings in its sanctuary, or chapel for that matter, to protest the Christian denomination's ban on same-sex marriages. First United Methodist Church says they will continue their protest until the Christian denomination's leadership permits same-sex couples to be married on church properties. Weddings already scheduled at the church will continue to take place as planned. Pastors from the church will be available for couples regardless of sexual orientation off-site until the ban is lifted. The decision was made by the church's congregation with a 90% approval.
This past week, a man wearing a bright yellow mask robbed 2 Austin gas stations with a Roman candle firework in one hand and a hammer in the other. The reason for the weapon of choice is still unknown. So far, no one has been injured, and the Austin Police Department describes the situation as bizarre and something they have never seen before. The suspect is described as a white male, 5'9" and thin, who has been seen driving a dark green four-door car with a garbage bag over the broken left rear window. If you have any information, you are encouraged to call 512-974-5092.
Yesterday, the Catalonia region of Spain overwhelmingly voted in favor of secession, a warning that the video we are about to show you is graphic. According to the Catalan government, 90% of ballots cast were for independence, but the vote was not orderly or transparent. Just after a few thousand votes had been cast, the regional president and leading secessionist Carles Puigdemont announced that Catalonia had won the right to independence. Pictures appeared of police beating voters and firing on them with rubber bullets, but the region is far from achieving secession. Yesterday evening, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy addressed the nation and made it clear that there was no real independence vote. He claimed that the majority of the residents did not even show up to vote. The region is home to over 7.5 million people, while only around 2 million people showed up.
Two major university legislations could have an extreme impact on the campus community. Those voting for the Administrative Rule 16 stood in support of Longhorn EMS becoming a university-sponsored, on-campus, first response organization last week. In the Student Government Assembly's meetings, the Longhorn EMS organization is composed of certified EMTs that serve as medical standby at UT football games and other local or campus events. At the same meeting, AR-17 stood in support for the right to private property and freedoms of speech for students' organizations. This bill is a response to the vandalism the young conservatives of Texas suffered in the past weeks. This act asks that UT administration enforces this in the Code of Conduct guidelines. It also condemns all acts of vandalism, intimidation, and criminal activities carried out on campus. Finally, the legislation is asking UTSG to pledge its commitment to protecting free speech and property rights for all students.
Get ready, Longhorn fans. You might have the chance to cheer on UT against A&M in the future. An initiative started by student body president Alejandrina Guzman and vice president, Mickey Wolf could bring back the epic football rivalry. Students voted online for the return of UT versus A&M football games. The poll was taken by 8,000 students, and 97% voted in support of bringing back the UT tradition. UT hasn't played A&M in football since 2011. While there is strong support for the game, we might not be able to see the return of Longhorns versus the Aggies until 2025.
For the first time in history, Manor ISD will be participating in the 2017-2018 Texas Special Olympics. Their bowling team is set to compete on October 6th at the 2017 Area Bowl Fun League. Although this program started at Manor High School, the school district intends to allow more schools in a variety of grades to join in on the fun. Additionally, Manor ISD plans to expand to other sports such as basketball and track and field in the near future.
October is all about breast cancer awareness, and the White House kicked off the nationally recognized month by illuminating the first family's home pink. The annual tradition, started by George W. Bush in 2008, supports more than 250,000 women and 2,000 men in the United States who are likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer this year. First Lady Melania Trump hopes to raise awareness about the importance of early breast cancer detection. She encourages women to take steps in reducing their risk. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says women should talk to their doctors about annual visits and when appropriate mammogram testing should be done. We'll be right back with more news. Stay tuned.
The Austin Police Department is promoting safety on local trails.
Houstonians received good news after Harvey.
Trump plans to visit Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria.
Texas cities have formally opposed the Mexican border wall. A study conducted by the Texas Lyceum recently surveyed 1,000 adult Texans and found that 61% oppose building the wall, while 39% are in agreement. Bonnie Chu took us to a local Austin gathering hosted by the Texas Sierra Club in preparation for voting for or against the wall.
The topic of the Mexican border wall have long created dispute and controversy. But on this Thursday, Austin City Council will vote on whether or not to add a formal opposition of the border wall to the city's federal legislative agenda. In preparation, local activists and Austin residents gathered for the first time with Texas Sierra Club, an environmental organization, regarding to this matter.
Yeah, if you talk to anyone in the valley, I mean, they oppose the wall. The valley opposes the wall, the Rio Grande Valley, most people that live on the border, if you talk to them, they oppose the wall. For the country I live in to put a racist symbol along an entire 2,000-mile border does not sit well with me.
At the meeting, they went over issues such as the policy updates of the border wall and ways that someone can get involved.
To see it come to reality is terrifying. It is literally separating my community and people in my community, my friends and family, from each other. And I'm just hopeful that people can see how immoral and unjust this is, how ineffective this is.
If the Austin Council passes a formal opposition, Austin will join many of the other South Texas cities that have opposed the wall as well. Bonnie Chu, KVR News.
The Austin Police Department is offering a Run with a Cop program to promote safety on local trails. The initiative started in response to attacks on female joggers around Austin lakes over the last few weeks. The first run was held with a cop this past Saturday morning. The APD SWAT team jogged along with Austin residents while educating those who came out on how to keep safe on trails. Austin police have also increased patrols on local trails in the hopes of helping citizens feel safe again while running on these routes.
Hashim Mupan from the Department of Justice spoke on the case of Donald Zarda on Tuesday. Zarda said he was fired for being gay, and Mupan argued that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 does not protect people on the basis of sexual orientation. The Department of Justice spoke on the case after the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission sided with Zarda. Circuit Judge Rosemary Pooler said having the federal government on both sides of the case was a little awkward, to say the least. A ruling is not expected to be issued anytime soon.
Houston received good news this week after Mayor Sylvester Turner proposed a plan to raise property taxes. The tax hike was intended to help pay for reconstruction after Hurricane Harvey, but the money is no longer going to be needed after Greg Abbott, our governor, presented the city with over $50 billion in disaster relief from the state's rainy day fund. Abbott said in a Friday news conference that there's a possibility for a special session to further allocate disaster resources. Abbott and Turner have also discussed preventative measures such as building a third reservoir in Houston, which could cost up to $400 million. As Governor Abbott put it, now that the hurricane winds are calm, it is time that we begin the process of rebuilding Texas. This is what the state of Texas is for. We're proud to be here wearing the same jersey, working for the same team.
The results are out for reports on what's actually in the food we eat at fast food restaurants. A consumer report shows that some of the 25 largest U.S. fast food chains are using harmful antibiotics in the meat. The only two restaurants that received high ratings were Chipotle and Panera Bread. Sources say consuming the antibiotics can make you bacteria resistant, which means antibiotics will not work when you need them to help you when you're sick.
After serving 9 years for a Las Vegas kidnapping and robbery, O.J. Simpson begins his life as a parolee after leaving prison on Sunday. Tom Scotto, a longtime friend of Simpson, says he will focus his life on his kids, friends, family, and golf. He will be living in a gated residence in a wealthy Las Vegas suburb. The Nevada Parole Board forbids him from spending time with ex-convicts, possessing drugs or weapons, and consuming alcohol in large quantities.
The Blanton Art Museum recently unveiled a new installation of its Latin American art collection. The museum began collecting Latin American art during the 1960s, but until now, displayed this art along with European and North American art in galleries arranged by overall period and style. Now, for the first time, all of the Latin American art appears grouped together and displayed by style and period with other Latin American art. The Latin American art curator arranged the paintings and sculptures sequentially to give the viewer a sense of the development of the Latin American artist in their historical context.
So this is a recent acquisition. It's a painting by Beatriz Gonzalez, who's an artist who's working in Colombia in the 1960s, and she often used popular images or icons in the way that pop artists in the U.S. did, and this is the first time that we've been actually able to have discrete galleries that focus on the depth and richness of our collections of Latin American art. So this is...
Police officers raided the Stonewall Inn. Gay pride celebrations have popped up all around the United States. Even though the parade was rescheduled because of Hurricane Harvey, thousands still turned out for the Austin Pride Parade this Saturday. There were more than 120 floats, along with live performances. This Saturday was only the parade. The festival will be held on Saturday, October 21st. A portion of the proceeds from the festival will be donated to those who faced hardships because of Hurricane Harvey.
Taking a knee during the national anthem has been a topic of nationwide controversy, and now 2 high school football players were kicked off their team after following the trend. Ronnie Mitchum, the head football coach of Victory and Praise Christian Academy, told his players not to kneel during the national anthem prior to Friday's game. Mitchum, a veteran, stated that he does not oppose acts of protesting, but believes that doing so during the national anthem is offensive to veterans and those actively serving in the military. Following the anthem, Mitchum told the 2 players to remove their uniforms and leave the field. The mother of one of the players supports their actions and believes the coach's punishment was excessive.
Friday night, these similar protests made their way to Austin. Cheerleaders at McCallum High School took a knee during the national anthem before kicking off the game against LBJ High School. The protest became a topic of controversy after President Trump spoke against professional athletes kneeling during the national anthem. Over the last week, athletes who do not play for National League across the country have been taking a knee in the protest.
Finally, after years of dreaming, his dreams have become a reality. 8-year-old Brighton suffers from mitochondrial disease, an illness which causes physical, developmental, and cognitive disabilities. Brighton was surprised when the Make-A-Wish Foundation paired up with the Southwest Water Company to sponsor his dream trip of heading north on his very own Alaskan adventure. In the following months, Brighton will have surgery. His family plans to take the trip heading to the last frontier once he's completely recovered.
Just in time for the season of giving, the pre-K classes at the Goodard School and Stainer Ranch here in Austin will be participating in their 10th annual toy test. All 50 toys being tested are geared towards educational purposes and are strictly evaluated by teachers as the children play. Children ranging from infants to 6 years old will determine the official preschooler-approved top 10 favorite toys list as a guide for parents, which will be released the 1st of November.
President Trump will head to Puerto Rico tomorrow to check up on relief efforts after Hurricane Maria devastated the territory. 2 weeks ago, he also accused San Juan's mayor, Carmen Yula Cruz, for poor leadership and for not carrying out adequate policies for citizens to help themselves. There are some who are criticizing his comments about the storm. Puerto Rico is in the process of recovering. 45% of Puerto Rico has access to drinking water, but more than half of 3.4 million do not.
You know, Rolando, I gotta say, this past month has really showed us just how volatile the weather can be.
You're telling me. All right, well, let's see what Elizabeth has for us in the Weather Center. Elizabeth?
Thanks, Walton and Rolando. Stick around to see what kind of weather this fall season will bring to Austin. We'll be right back.
Have a news tip or story idea? Call the KVR News Tip Line, 475-8181.
October is upon us at last, bringing some cool autumn weather along with it. This past weekend brought relief from the Texas heat as cool, rainy conditions gave us highs in the mid-80s and lows in the 60s. The high for today was a warm 88, but we will see temperatures start to dip down to the lower 70s later tonight. Plan to accessorize with an umbrella as we look for an 80% chance of rain for tomorrow. We'll see a high of 84 and a low of 74. On Wednesday, we'll start the morning with some light rain, but hit highs of mid-80s and lows down to 70 degrees. But no worries for those of you heading off to ACL Weekend 1. Dry, warm, and mostly sunny conditions are expected to return Thursday and remain through the coming weekend, with highs remaining in the 80s and lows headed towards the upper 60s. Stay dry while studying for those midterms, Longhorns. Live from the Weather Center, Elizabeth Smith.
Thanks, Elizabeth. We'll be right back after the break with College Press Box's Christine Taylor.
Have a news tip or story idea? Call the KVR News Tip Line, 475-8181.
Hello and welcome back to KVR News. I'm Christine Taylor.
Thank you for being with us, Christine. Kansas State is coming into town this weekend, and Texas has the chance to go over 500 at this point in the season for the first time since 2013. Kansas State head coach Bill Snyder always seems to have his Wildcats well prepared. But what does Texas need to do to come out with a win on Saturday? What do the Horns need to focus on to going into week 2 of conference play?
Defensively, the Longhorns have been playing much better since the Maryland game. However, it will really come down to the offensive line for this upcoming game. In the last game against Iowa State, They only ran 141 yards over 52 carries, averaging in 2.7 yards per carry. Cullen Johnson, arguably one of the best receivers in the Big 12, only received 2 catches, and they had 5 holding penalties in the second half. So in order for them to really ensure a win against Kansas State this weekend, they really need to step it up offensively.
Well, it seems like everyone's got their own opinion on who should be the starting quarterback for Texas. In his press conference today, Tom Herman said both Shane and Sam have things they need to work on, but it feels like they can win with either of them at quarterback. Although Tom Herman and Shane will most likely start on Saturday, who do you see starting against KSU?
Personally, I think that Sam Ehlinger has shown quite a bit of promise in his games, particularly against USC. However, we all know that Bouchel will most likely start on Saturday against Kansas State. Herman has said before that a player is only as good as his last practice, and I think he's seen a lot more consistency from Shane Bouchel over Sam Ehlinger. However, he did sprain his ankle. He's expected to practice, but I think it will really come down to his health in this upcoming week, dependent on whether or not he'll start on Saturday.
Well, moving across the street from DKR to Mike A. Myers Stadium, the women's soccer team will take on TCU this Friday night. The 8th-ranked Lady Longhorns have gone 11-0, recording only 1 tie with Oklahoma this past weekend. What makes this year's team different about last year's team?
There's a lot of power with the underclassmen this year. The attacking power has been so much better this season. Sophomore Sierra Hinson and freshman Haley Berg and Sydney Billups have both been the leaders of the attack up front. Defensively, they've been playing incredible, only allowing a total of 6 goals against the team this season. They've had a great start, which has created this sense of confidence that we've never seen from a Texas team before.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Christine. Tune into College Press Box right after this newscast. Let's head over to Marco to see what's new in Hollywood.
Thanks, Walton. B.O.B. starts a petition to prove that the world is flat. Rockstar Tom Petty clings to life, and Beyonce helps Puerto Rico. I'll have the latest coming up.
You're watching KVR News at 9. Your campus, your news.
Welcome back to KVR News. A lot has happened since rapper B.O.B. sang about the beautiful girls all over the world. Turns out the 20-year-old rapper thinks the world is flat. Now B.O.B. has launched a GoFundMe account with $1 million goal to help him launch satellites for experimental exploration. So far, the fundraiser has raised a little bit more than $6,000, raised by almost 200 people, including B.O.B. himself. But he's no stranger to the flat earth theory. In 2016, B.O.B. tweeted a picture of himself and wrote, "The cities in the background are approximately 16 miles apart. Where's the curve? Please explain this." Tom Petty, the rocker best known as the frontman of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, is reported to be clinging to life. Early reports said that the singer had died, but after clarification, LAPD apologized for the initial information released and apologized for any inconvenience it created. TMZ reported that the musician suffered a cardiac arrest and was found unconscious and not breathing in his Malibu home on Sunday. He is placed in UCLA Santa Monica Hospital and put on life support. And a surprising new single released by Queen Bee Beyonce is helping those affected by the hurricanes in the Caribbean and the earthquakes in Mexico. A remix to the song Mi Gente, which means my people in Spanish, was released Thursday night. Listed on her website, Beyonce is said to give all proceeds from the song to the victims of the recent hurricanes and earthquakes that affected many. Live from the Entertainment Center, I'm Marco Ramirez.
Thanks, Marco, and thank you for tuning in.
Make sure to follow us for news updates throughout the week. You can follow us on Twitter at KVR News and like us on Facebook. I'm Rolando Hernandez.
And I'm Walton Gray Martin. Be sure to stay tuned for College Press Box up next on Texas Student Television. Have a great week.